this is Marco Polo, and welcome to my home studio tour. Let's go. Before the computers were here and Pro Tools existed, everything was running through this bad boy right here. The Roland VS-880, and it's full of dust and crap and dirt because it's been sitting in a closet. It got retired, but many years bouncing tracks and recording vocals into this thing. I went from this to the computer laptop era and software and VSTs. I make all my beats in the MPC 2000 XL or the studio software, but when I'm ready to track the beats out and track vocals, my go-to DAW is Pro Tools. It's been Pro Tools since I started. I am a Mac guy. I've always been an annoying Mac guy. I love Mac. I love the stability of it. It is way more expensive, but to me, they're a bit more dependable for the long term. As you can see, I got my iMac as the heart of my whole studio. It cost an arm and a leg, but it's solid. What type of speakers do I use? I use Cerwin Vega CM80s. And the reason I use them is because when I moved into this space, shouts to my brother, Davis. He had a studio space in here and he had these speakers that were here. And I just started making my beats on them, and they're extremely flat. They don't really have a sound, and the more I did research on them, I found out that they were just 1980s generic karaoke speakers. They're not professional audio speakers at all, and I've become so accustomed to using them that I'm actually switching studios in the next month, and I asked to buy them from my boy and he wouldn't sell them to me, so I had to go on the internet and find them, and they're very hard to find. I finally tracked them down in the Philippines and bought them and had them shipped back to me, so I'll bring them to my new studio space. And the reason why I love them is because they sound flat. I don't like speakers that make the bass sound better or do anything that hypes the music. I like things to sound flat as hell, which is the best for making beats. Because if they sound good on these speakers, they will sound amazing on better quality speakers. What is my current sampler of choice? We're keeping it Akai. If you know me, you know I rock with Akai. I've started with my MPC 2000 XL was my first. Then I went to the MPC Live 2. But currently, I am using the MPC 37 keys, pads. I just got it. I'm just getting familiar with it, but I'm loving it, and that's where we're at currently. But I always go back and forth. It really depends on my mood and what I need to get done that day. What audio interface do I use? Shouts to Universal Audio, but I've switched to the Apollo 8 about 5 or 6 years ago, and I've never looked back. And I actually have a few Universal Audio devices. I have the Twin, and I have a satellite, for those that know, that help you get more DSP power, which basically means I can run more of their fancy plugins at the same time without my computer crashing. So I got an Apollo 8, a Twin, and a satellite, and I love the sound of them. I feel like it gives a little something extra than my old Digio 1, which is where I started. And here we are. So shouts to Universal Audio. What elements have I added to the studio to improve the vibe or the energy? And I think the number one answer, now that I think about it, is my cat Cola. She's like the executive producer. She's my co-producer. She's got all the good vibes. She'll tell me when a beat is trash. She'll tell me when my snare is, not working, when my bass is out of tune. So shouts to Cola. Many classic legendary MCs have been here. Some of the notable ones. Rest in peace to my brother Sean Price. He used to be here. We used to record. I remember one session, I tell the story, he showed up holding a bag of fish and he's like, put that in the fridge. He knocked out a verse, he took his bag of fish and he went back to Brownsville. Rest in peace to Sean Price. Obviously Masta Ace, we've recorded both albums here. One of my mentors, Large Professor, who I look up to in so many ways, we've recorded here. Pharoahe Monch, one of the best lyricists ever. Torae, Rusty Jukes, H Stacks, Marlon Craft, all the boot camp, Buckshot, Smif and Wessun. I'm forgetting a million people, but that's a few. What is my favorite BPM? The $1 million question. I would say I'm probably known for 90 BPM and higher. Is it my favorite currently? I don't know. When I'm making beats, I always think about how they will sound in a live setting. So I will definitely always be drawn to faster tempos. So between 90 and 95 is my final answer. If I was going to a desert island and I could only take one plugin, I would have to go with Waves L2 limiter on the Master. Because that's what the only plugin I've used all these years until I went to Software World, and now I have access to all my plugins during the beat making process. But before that, I would just smash my 2-track beat through the L2, and that's my favorite plugin. I will never stop using it. I have much fancy limiters available now, and I will still go back to the trusty L2. Currently, my go-to synthesizer is this new Moog grandmother. I've been calling it Moog all these years, but I guess apparently it's Moog. So Moog, it's sitting right here. I just got it about a year ago. It's fun to experiment with, and I like it especially for bass sounds and even for leads. Every day you can kind of design a new sound by tweaking the knobs, even if you don't know anything about synthesis. Do I have a go-to sound? It could be a kick, a snare, a bass that I always use, over time, that I'll never share with anybody or never disclose what the source is. I don't, because I do have one particular bass sound. Shouts to my boy Shen. He came here like 20 years ago, and he had this sine wave in the 2000 XL that he sampled, and he kind of looped it eternally so it never stopped. And it had a click, so when it looped it would have a click sound. We're gonna get real nerdy now, but when you filter it down, it was just a warm bass tone that never stopped. So you could hold it for as long as you needed to hold it, and with note on, and it would stop. So to this day, it's the best bass sound I've had that I've used on all the albums with Ace, Port Authority, and I have shared it in my expansions. So go check that bass sound that's in my expansions for Akai, Pad Thai 1 through 3, Pad Thai Deluxe. So look for that. What is my best memory in this studio? That is probably the most difficult question of this session, because this studio has been my home for 21 years. I've made every album I've ever put out. It has been in this room. I've recorded all the vocals, and there's been a lot of classic moments. To pick one is impossible. I've had Large Professor in here. I've had Masta Ace in here. I've had Pharoahe Monch in here. I've had Rock Marciano before he even put out his first album on Fat Beats. I've had Torae in here. I've had legends upon legends, and I think it would be a disservice to them and myself to pick one particular moment. But if you've ever appreciated a beat that I made or any piece of music, this space in this room was the place I created it. Instead of picking a moment, I just want to thank all the moments over the time, and here's to new beginnings. I'm possibly in a new studio as soon as next month, so the next time you see me creating, we'll be in a different place. So peace and love to Fort Greene, Brooklyn, to my studio.